Hey there, and welcome back to Don't Blame Mondaze, a Better Me podcast where we focus on self-care, self-awareness, and my favorite, self-improvement. I am Lisa McClendon, international recording artist, and I love having conversations about self-improvement because I know what it has done for my life personally. This is episode 7, and let's kick this off with the story. So I work with kids, and I've been working with kids in my role now for about a year and a half. And I had a new hire that I hired recently. He sent a student up for what we call behavior redirection. And apparently the student had been throwing tables and chairs, chairs, from what I saw on the video in the room. Or, sliding chairs across the room, whatever, kind of being pretty much disruptive. And so they were sending them to me. And this kid, it wasn't anything new. We had we had situations with this particular student in the past. And so just from my experience and trial and error and learning, I knew immediately that I had to get the whole story. So myself and a colleague and our on-site deputy rolled back the video, and we began to watch the video. And I began to see things happening around the room. And you can see that particular child getting antsy. The louder the classroom got, the more movement the kids gave, the more antsier he became. Until finally he was just completely triggered, and he's just very impulsive. And you see him sliding across the room in his chair, then he's up, then he's down, and which eventually led to him getting in trouble and ending up in my office. And so after I watched the video, I asked the new hire to come in, and I showed him the video, and I walked him through all the steps. I said, you see that? You see that? You see that? And he was like, yeah. And I just kind of directed him as to why I direct classrooms a certain way to prevent things like that from happening. And I ended it with, before we can give a final judgment on a child's behavior, we got to get the whole story. We got to know where it started. So he looked at me, he got it. Always right in the world, talk to the kid, talk to his parent, and we were able to move forward. I'm going to talk about giving grace to people. And I shared that story because I was once that kid. I was that kid, not necessarily throwing chairs and stuff like that, but very impulsive, very temperamental. I think that's the right word. Explosive, because I had so much going on inside of me that I didn't even realize and didn't even know about what was going on inside of me until I was an adult and was able to really get some help to identify and then put things in place where I could get help and manage. First of all, heal. Let's start there. Heal and then manage my behavior. And while we are adults, do you know that there are just a lot of adults that have not learned how to manage their behavior? Like, I hope you are really hearing what I'm saying. Like, there are grown men and women who, dare I say, no fault of their own, at least no whole fault of their own, are explosive and impulsive and aggressive, that's a better word, aggressive, and all these things, because they don't even realize the help that they need, and they're just an autopilot with everything around them. And those people need grace. Sometimes even the point of grace where you have to walk away and, if you will, deal with them with a long wooden spoon, until they can get the help, identify that they need the help, and then get the help that they need, because there's nothing you can say or do to change the way they are. And simply to protect your peace and sometimes your physical well-being, you have to walk away. And I do believe that there's a level of grace, that grace can be also, or shall I say, walking away can be some type of grace. Because for me, the opposite of walking away would be to confront the person, to confront the gesture, to be as angry as they are, to go back and forth, to be combative, to be defensive. But what if the person can't help it? What if they haven't, one, identified that they have a problem, and two, haven't gotten the help that they need to learn how to manage the problem? Well, I'm a big believer that I'm not here to fix you. I'm not here to fix anyone. So sometimes the best option for me, for you, is to give them grace by walking in the opposite direction. Because we do have adult tantrums. Hands in the air, I've had them. No idea, no self-awareness, no insight about what was going on inside of me. Having adult tantrums, missing opportunities, losing opportunities, destroying relationships and friendships. And it wasn't until I got the help that I needed, that helped me to identify what was going on, what the root cause was, where it was coming from, how to help myself, was I able to grow, be aware, grow, learn, change. And while it's such a gift, there are just a lot of people who have not yet acquired that gift. And sometimes we spend a lot of energy on checking people, getting them straight, setting it straight, saying what we got to say. Oh no, you gonna hear me, been there too. And I've had to learn that this is unnecessary energy that's been exerted. Because how is it said? It's going to go in one ear, not the other. Because that person is not ready to receive anything you have to say. They need the grace of understanding you're not where you need to be to hear me, and I don't have to stand here and hear you. You have not learned yet how to control your impulsive behavior. Some people fly off the handle, and some people do crazy stuff because they have not learned to manage the gift of who they are. And then we spend so much energy trying to check people, trying to set the record straight, trying to, oh, you gonna hear me. And I'm learning the beauty of the graceful walk away. Walk away because this person, they ain't ready. They don't know how to receive you. They don't even realize the things that they're doing. And we give this energy to people. And a part of my self-improvement has been to not give energy in those places. To understand that this person needs my grace of quietness, of silence. That's what I want to say. They need my grace of silence, and sometimes my grace of walking away. And can I add, sometimes my grace of understanding. Like, I have so much compassion for some of my students, because some students, I know they can't help it. I see some of my students, one boy in particular, I'm looking in his face, in my mind right now. You see the frustration in his face because he's trying to get it. He wants to do right, but his impulsive behavior, because he has not yet learned how to manage his behavior. He acts first and then he regrets it later. And he feels so bad. And I feel so bad for him. And I always tell my staff this, and I would remind myself, and I share with the parents as well. But it doesn't mean that there's not consequence for the behavior. So maybe that child has to be set aside and removed from the rest of the students for a time being. Maybe when the students go outside to play, they have to sit for 10 minutes and let's just reflect on the behavior. But what happens when that child is an adult? An adult's timeout is going to need to look a little bit different. Your timeout may mean timeout from me. From being able to access me. From being able to be in my presence. Sometimes out, based on the person and the situation, can be temporary. While some timeouts may warrant being permanent. You be the judge. Grace. And it's funny because I forgot I wrote a song. Grace, grace, grace. Follow him, follow her. Grace. Some people need the grace of understanding. If I could have one wish in this moment, I wish that everyone I've ever offended, everyone that I've ever had a combative argument with, or been combative with, or been aggressive with, I wish I had their grace of understanding and forgiveness. Because there are things that I know now that I didn't know then about who I am, how I'm wired, what triggers me, how to manage my behavior, how to manage my thoughts. And so in return, I try really hard to give that to other people. You never know when you're going to need grace. Maybe you already have needed grace. Maybe you've already needed grace for something you've done in the past and you're like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I didn't know better. I did what I knew at the time. Some people are just doing what they know to do at the time. And they honestly, truly need your grace. So I challenge you today. Really try hard to extend that grace to people. And if you don't have enough grace to stand face to face with them and just be at peace and quiet while they just do whatever they do impulsively, you have the right to gracefully walk away. This episode was particularly special to me because I was recently faced with that challenge when someone that I considered an old friend attacked my music publicly for whatever their agenda was. And because I have had the honor of having grace extended to me and needing grace, my response was not anger, was not frustration. I was shocked, but it wasn't anger or ready to retaliate. I just gave them grace. I gave them grace. I gave them what so many people need. I didn't respond. I had nothing to say to them. Even though they were very combative when they were asked what was going on. I just knew that where they were had nothing to do with me. So as you are going throughout this week and the weeks to come, and you have an opportunity to extend grace, or you're faced with a situation that may need grace, just remember that what they are doing to you or attempting to do to you has nothing to do with you. It's all about them. People's behavior is all about them. It has nothing to do with you. So you have the power to give grace because they just need grace. Thank you again for being here today. I hope this has blessed you. I hope that you would take on that challenge. Remember, you're worth receiving grace as well. So give yourself grace as well. This is Lisa McClendon. This is Don't Blame Mondaze, a Better Me podcast. I will see you soon. And you're welcome.